Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the macro trajectory in Bitcoin as well as the altcoin market, including warning signs that we're seeing there for a potential correction. Of course, we'll also talk about the bullish invalidations for these warning signs and areas we might look to find support and bounce. Before we get into all that though, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. If you're after even more content, be sure to check out my free Telegram channel. And if you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so diving into the hourly chart, let's really quickly talk about the recent price action and what we've seen over the last couple of days before we dive into the analysis segment of our video. So the price action over the last 2 or 3 days has been honestly really insane and super choppy. As you guys can see, moving into the start of the week, we had a very clear structural pattern over here, a clear level of horizontal resistance, and below that, a very clear uptrend, right? So moving into resistance in an uptrend, we expected quite a bullish segment of price action moving on. So we had a measured move here of about 8%, right, being the height of that ascending triangle structure upon the breakout of 92,000, which would have taken or should have taken Bitcoin up to retest $97,000. However, what we actually ended up seeing was an invalidation of resistance here at 92,000, but a consistent inability to hold that level as a base of support. So we were unable to do a successful support resistance flip, and we saw repetitive breakdowns of that level of support there, forming a shorter time frame structure, being this ascending channel over here where we had more aggressive higher highs and higher lows. Now that of course eventually led to a break of $93,000, but once again being a bearish structure, a structure of weakness, we saw a rejection from the upper trend line over there, a fall back into this level of resistance once again. So again, an unsuccessful support resistance flip and falling back into this range once again. So the price action over the last couple of days has been exceptionally indecisive. If we take a look at CoinGlass, we can see that kind of reflected a little bit. 24-hour liquidations are down, volume is down. The market is just really chopping right now. However, these recent developments have led to, in their weakness, some quite interesting developments on the slightly higher time frame charts and some warnings for a potential correction here on Bitcoin, as well as Total 3, which is in a very critical position. So let's dive in and talk about all of that. Before we get into the rest of the video, guys, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, BTC. We can get 15% off all of your trading fees and up to $5,500 in sign-up rewards when you create your free account using the link down in my description box. BTC is an emerging cryptocurrency exchange committed to providing you with a secure, convenient, and highly functional trading and investment platform. Available across all countries as a non-KYC exchange, get global access to over 150 trading pairs with minimal fees on both spot and futures contracts. Join today to get $5,500 in sign-up rewards and get 15% off all of your trading fees by signing up using the link in my bio or by using the code 1GG3 when you create your account. Okay, so diving into the analysis segment of our video now, let's stay on this hourly chart for a moment and talk about this ascending channel structure. So we know that it is an inherently a bearish structure, right? As we generally enter it at the, in the middle of a downtrend, right? So we're in a downtrend, we form that ascending channel, and then, it generally has a bearish breakdown leading to a continuation of that original downtrend. And we can see that right over here, right? We entered that downtrend at our rejection, our second rejection at $92,000. And then after bouncing on our weekly uptrend over here, we went on to form that sort of bearish structure, this ascending channel, which has a breakdown measured move being the height of the channel, and that takes us to actually retrace this lower level of support over here at $88,000. So that is a big drop, guys. It's a 4% correction, but you might argue that, yeah, sure, a correction on the hourly chart isn't really that big of a deal. Why am I so concerned about this? It is because of what that breakdown means on a higher time frame structure over here, being that ascending triangle formation that we've gone on to create here on the 4-hour chart, right? In that most recent fake out from $93,000 over here, the 4-hour candle itself closed within that range of resistance, marking it as a continued level of resistance on a 4-hour time frame, and we're still traveling in that uptrend. So this, on a 4-hour time frame, this is a bullish structure, right? But the problem is that within that bullish structure, we have a bearish one, right? That is showing us that at these levels of resistance, we're seeing continued developments of weakness, and that breakout at $93,000. It didn't even, it's really bearish that we didn't have or develop any sort of bullish momentum at that breakout there. And we immediately went on to continue within that bearish structure here and saw an immediate correction, right? That is inherently very, very bearish because of the context of that level of resistance, 93K being the all-time high. So if we take a look at the breakdown point for that short time frame structure over here, it actually breaks us out of our weekly uptrend here as well. So we go on to retest this lower level of support here in that move. Let me just draw that once again. Over here, right? So we've fallen below the prior high within the uptrend. That is a change of character level, pushing Bitcoin then in that measured move into a downtrend. We're flipping the narrative here on the 4-hour time frame, and entering a downtrend is when it becomes much more likely that we are then also going to see a continued bearish move to then retest the next prior low here on the uptrend, being 86,700, and then eventually falling below that, the range low at 85,160. So a retracement of all those levels, far from being just a small short time frame correction, is nearly an 8% drop, right? And right below 85,160, we have quite a significant volume gap here, right? So falling below that sort of wick there, the end of that liquidity zone, we're likely to then fill the rest of this volume gap and move to 82,000, which would then be a 10% correction. So essentially, we are starting to see some warnings here on the short time frame charts that we are in for, a potential local top. I do not think that this is the all-time high for Bitcoin, just because it hasn't even been very long yet. It's very, very unlikely that this is the all-time high, but it might be a little bit of a local top, right? Now, before we get too carried away though, it is important to talk about the bullish invalidations, because nothing is certain. We might see a big flip of the narrative here. What is that going to look like? So first of all, that is on the hourly time frame going to be the invalidation of our structure here, that short time frame, the bearish structure that's triggering all of this concern, and that will be a breakout then of this upper trend line here, an hourly close above this trend line, and a sustained move above the trend line. So what I'm looking for is a breakout, a retest of the trend line most likely, or that prior level of support here, well, a successful support resistance flip of 94,000, and then a bullish continuation to fulfill, the measured move here of that ascending channel breakout that we have there on the 4-hour time frame. So that also means then a 4-hour candle close above this level of resistance here at 93,300. That needs to be seen before we can expect an invalidation of that, short time frame structure and a actual breakout here then of our ascending triangle. So that is all still very much possible. I'm just saying that as of right now, as the way the price action has developed, it is looking a little bit less likely, and we might be in for a little bit of a correction first. We might just go on to retest this prior low here and bounce on support, but these are the key levels to be looking at. If we take a look as well on this 4-hour time frame, we can see that from these two range high retests, so the first one at 93,000 and then 94, we have also created bearish divergence here, right? So we have decreasing momentum at those higher highs. So one more thing that we'll be looking for as a bullish invalidation of these sort of warning signs is a breakout then of this bearish divergence trend line, right? So a show that we have gathered enough strength, momentum has flipped back positive, and we are invalidating these bearish structures here. So moving on to total 3, let's talk about the critical position that we're in there and the developing structures we have on total 3 as well. So heading on over to the total 3 chart, guys, we can see that for the last week to week and a half, we've been retesting a really, really crucial level of resistance here at $840 billion. It is a level of resistance that is essentially equivalent or reminiscent to $48,000 for Bitcoin, right? If you guys remember the price action, or you were here for it all the way back in January or February early on this year, you would know that when we were retesting $48,000, we were retesting a really strong level of resistance known as the dead cat bounce level, which essentially a rejection from back at the end of the prior bull run represents a continuation into a macro bear market. And so in the next cycle, it goes on to become a very, very crucial bullish trigger, which breaking above over here, we went on to form a new all-time high at $73,000, right? So over here, if we take a look at total 3, that is essentially the same segment of macro price action that the altcoins are currently sitting in, right? So they're a fair bit behind, which is quite normal at this stage of the cycle, but in breaking above 840 billion on a weekly time frame, so closing above that level, we can then expect also quite a bullish, aggressively bullish segment of price action, breaking above or at least retesting 1.13 trillion here and forming a new all-time high for total 3. However, as we have been approaching this level of resistance over the last week or so, we've actually started to develop quite a bearish structure here on the shorter time frame. So moving again to the 4-hour chart here on total 3, we can see that while we have been in an uptrend, right, from the 6th or the 5th of November, we've also consequently been developing these, I guess, less steep higher highs here on the top, developing a second trend line and forming an ascending wedge structure. So that, guys, is a bearish structure and generally is a, I guess, exhibition of weakness moving into resistance as opposed to strength, telling us that we have a high probability of seeing a breakdown here, of which the measured move is actually very, very brutal. So being the height of the structure from that first retest point at the top there, applying that to the breakout point takes us all the way down here to around $700 billion, right? That is a really, really big correction, about 12% here for altcoins. And if we zoom out onto a daily time frame, essentially what we've gone on to do is retest this prior change of character level that we had broken above earlier on, I guess, in this sort of massive rally over here, right? Because we were in a massive macro downtrend here on total 3, and in developing an uptrend, we really needed to break above this prior high here to move into, you know, that structural uptrend there. So breaking back below this change of character would spell a very, very big correction for altcoins and a move on to then retest this prior high here in that same downtrend at $660 billion, right? Again, another very big correction. Once again, moving back to the 4-hour time frame, we can see that on the RSI as well, we have been traveling in a downtrend, right? And if we want to invalidate this pattern structure over here and break above $840 billion, we're going to need to break out of this upper trend line with leading, I guess, indication from this RSI trend line break as well, suggesting we're seeing a bullish shift in momentum for altcoins. Now, currently, Bitcoin dominance is over 60%, right? So a lot of this behavior that we're seeing here from total 3 is going to play out very similar to the way that Bitcoin plays out. If we see a breakdown from Bitcoin from this higher time frame uptrend over here and a retest of these lower levels of support, it is very likely that we also see a breakdown from total 3 just purely because Bitcoin dominance is, again, so high. So the next segment of price action is very, very crucial, guys. Be prepared for quite volatile price action moving forward. Hopefully we don't see a bounce, but if we do, hopefully we don't see a correction, but if we do, now at least we are prepared. Alrighty guys, that is all the analysis that I have for you today. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're after even more content, be sure to check out my free Telegram for daily updates as well as crypto and economic news. And if you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. And if you are a trader, don't forget to sign up down below to BitUnext to get 15% off all of your trading fees. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!